an imposter syndrome, and I still have it to this day. But just like reminding yourself, like, oh, this is what I've done, even at the very beginning, because you're going to find that you build up things to be proud of pretty easily. Because the like little wins are a lot bigger when it's just you.
Right.
And so I think just like making sure that you're remembering, maybe if you're writing those things down, just remembering like the things that you're accomplishing. So you have something to stand on for your own sake.
Yeah. And I mean, looking back on 2019 you that was working at this company, and you were probably pretty proud of the work that you were doing, and you're like, I'm gonna work hard and show my superiors that I deserve a promotion and that I deserve the next steps. Would you have ever imagined yourself of being a business owner for 5 years and counting of this is what I do now? From the Sarah Smiles Network, I'm Sarah Smiles, and this is the Consider the Source podcast, a show about women who've built ideas, movements, and careers by questioning the status quo and challenging norms. To give a quick intro as to who you are and what AB Creative is, I keep wanting to say ABC Creative, which, how do you typically pronounce it? Is it AB Creative or ABC Creative?
It's ABCreative. Those
Okay.
are my initials, so it's not really the most creative title that I could have given my business. But I just wanted it to be simple, and I also thought, especially at the time, I wanted to cover a lot of different bases. So it's kind of like the ABCs, like everything. That was kind of how I was thinking of it. But yeah, so I'm Ashleigh Blumenthal. I am the owner and founder of AB Creative. I do mainly marketing, but also with an emphasis on video marketing and video editing. I've been doing this for about, let's see, I think I established my LLC in 2020.
Wow. Okay, so this was like a COVID creation then.
Yeah, it was a COVID creation. I was working in a startup in Chicago, and I was pretty miserable. So I was pretty miserable there, and I wasn't getting treated very well by my this business, and they were really taking advantage. And so I finally gave them an ultimatum, and I was like, "Hey, this is what I need to stay." And it was so minor. It was like a title change, which was totally warranted, and then like a slight increase in pay, which was also so ridiculous. Like when I think about it now, how it just made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And they called my bluff because they thought that I was a pushover, and I said, "Well, that's disappointing, and see you later. I'm going to give you like a month's long notice."
Wow.
And they were really shocked by that. And then that following weekend, COVID shut down the entire world. So I stayed with the company for about a month and a half, but I was having a really hard time finding a job. So I
Mm.
started doing contracting work, and that just really worked out really, really well. And so eventually I just like stopped trying to find a job. The world kind of went back to normal, and I just continued doing this work for myself, which has been really great.
Yeah. And was the contracting work and the work at the startup similar to the work that you're doing now, or is the work that you're doing now more of, okay, this is me following my passion and creating a business based on that passion?
Yeah, I mean, while my experience was not the most positive when I left that company, I did learn a lot, and I use a lot of those skills in what I do now.
Hmm.
I was the marketing and creative manager when I left my company, and now I do like a lot of creative consulting, and I do marketing. And I did, when you work at a startup, you have like a million different roles. And so
Right.
that helps me do what I do now, which is, like I said, I kind of offer like a lot of different things. So it definitely helped me, and I'm grateful for that experience. While the rest may be negative, I'm grateful that I learned a lot else, other than that,
Yeah.
that helped me
Yeah.
today.
Amazing. And so
Yeah.
obviously you're in COVID era of, okay, I'm thankful that I have this contracting work that I'm doing. I'm able to do a little bit of work for myself, but what did that really look like? So were you able to find clients? Were you able to find customers that were people you were reaching out to, or were they reaching out to you of, hey, we can't really find anyone to do this right now because there's no one working right now?
Yeah. I think that I got lucky in the sense that because people weren't hiring, they were looking for contractors because they wanted to hire
Mm,
somebody to do, they still needed these tasks to be fulfilled and these roles to be filled, but they couldn't afford to like actually bring someone on full time. So I think that people were really searching for a better option, which was contracting. And so I think I got like a little bit lucky in terms of kind of jumping in when I did. I used a website called Upwork when I first started, and I sometimes use it today. It's kind
hmm
of like a you can post and find work, but they take a percentage, and so there's kind of an insurance policy. So there's not this concern of, especially when you're first starting off, like, oh, contracts and making sure somebody pays me, because they take a percentage and they protect you from all of that. So it
hmm
taught me a lot about like how to do those things, and then it introduced me to a lot of different people who became long-term clients of my own. We
hmm
worked, then later on outside of Upwork, and so it was able to teach me a lot and protect me in a time when I didn't know how to do anything. And
Right.
then I and
Yeah.
then I found business from that, from referrals. But people were having a hard time because they couldn't afford to bring people on. So I got really lucky in terms of like they really needed those things done,
Right.
and I was in the right place at the right time, I guess. So
Yeah. Well, obviously, a lot has changed between now and COVID, just in terms of how the internet works and how to promote things. What was it like in COVID times in 2020 to be promoting a business that you just created? I feel like now it's really obvious that you would use tools like Canva or TikTok and even LinkedIn to be promoting something or promoting a business specifically. What were you using in the early days of AB Creative?
yeah, I didn't do a lot in terms of promoting other than having like my website at that time. It's
Hmm
actually something that I've just been doing recently is like, I really should be promoting my business.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really need to at that period, which was really great. But I also wasn't I guess, taking on the workload that I am now. So now it's
hmm
like I need to promote myself to be able to fill the hours that I need to fill. And it's kind of like a fun thing for me to do as well. But I was really
Yeah.
only doing like my website, and then keeping like my portfolio up to date. But I wasn't doing the things I'm doing now where I'm posting videos. I think I found you on TikTok. Like I'm trying to
hmm
post more about, on that account specifically, I'm talking a lot about being like a mom and a business owner.
hmm
So I'm posting stuff about that. I'm posting on LinkedIn about my business and about being like a freelance contractor, and trying to like also help people that are like were in the position that I was in starting off. So I try to think a lot about what are the things that like I really needed to know and didn't know.
hmm
And so that's how I'm kind of promoting myself now, is like so people can see my work and then see that I know what I'm talking about, but also help people at the same time.
Right. And I feel like there is a lot to know when you first start off, like how to create an LLC or how to create a website and small little things that you don't really think of and then they start adding up. But between now and even COVID, I feel like there's been such a demand for brands to show up in an authentic way online and have a
Mhm.
social media presence. Do you feel that same way? And do you feel like with that, there is this extra workload that you also have to take on in addition to the work that you're already doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good point, because I think that a lot of what I'm doing now is also practicing what I preach when it comes to like my clients. So we're doing, when I'm working with clients who need to promote their business on social media, I often also take on their personal accounts too, because
Mm-hmm.
people want to follow more so than ever. People want to follow a person. And so
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to be a little bit more vulnerable and like post things from your own self rather than just like the faceless business,
Right.
which is, like I said, something that I'm trying to do too, and be a little bit more vulnerable, because I think that there is a level of kind of organic authenticity that's more important now than it ever used to be, for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. It's like I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, it doesn't need to be like overly produced. Like if you want to do a video, let's just do you with your phone and let's talk about a topic, and that's all we need to do. It doesn't need to
Mm-hmm.
be this highly produced situation, because honestly, it will probably do better because it feels more real and
Right.
authentic, and people like that.
Yeah. And so the clients that are coming to you, it's a whole spectrum of offerings that you're listing. So what are the things that people are coming to you asking for help? Because obviously you can hire a marketing team or a social media manager. What are the offerings that you provide that really make you stand out and differentiate from those types of services?
Yeah, I think a big one is going to be I get a lot of clients who don't necessarily know what they need or want, period.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also not big enough or nearly ready or need like a big marketing agency. Like they just need some marketing help.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of clients who just need to like know what to do. Like they don't have a
Mm-hmm.
content funnel or strategy. They just need a lot of help. Their website just needs a little bit of a facelift, and they need someone
Right.
to tell them how to do that. They need someone to help them hire people, which is something that I do a lot of, which I think I manage a lot of other freelancers for my clients, which is a whole other beast because while I am a freelancer and a contractor, I totally recognize the fact that a majority of the people you deal with are actually really, really difficult to deal with. It's
Yeah.
really hard to hire somebody good, and not to like toot my own horn, but like often it's like it's hard to find like really good people to work with, and so I do a lot of that for my clients. So like I'll go and hire for them and manage all that, so they don't have to deal with narrowing it down and managing these people
Wow.
that are ghosting them, which is super common, and lying about what they do. Because like I know the questions to ask because I've hired for these positions before. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a big part of what I get from my clients as well as I manage these other freelancers and contractors and help them with those roles. And then I do a lot of, like I said, I do a lot of video too. So a lot of my clients need help with whether it's just like a brand video for their business or they just need
Mm-hmm.
some like social content. I'll help manage those projects as well, whether I'm editing or I hire someone underneath me to edit those videos too.
Yeah. And are these typically just individual clients, or are these often businesses of like lower scale in terms of number of people working for them, or are they larger companies that are like, okay, we just don't have the capacity to take this on right now?
I get like everything under the sun. I mean, I
Okay.
worked with like a really large scale like government contractor, which they
Wow.
used me for like everything. I think that I can't remember what the that project ended, but what they had me as the title was so funny because they would just come to me for like any question that was even remotely related to media, which was great because that's what I'm used to doing. But they were a very large corporation. But then I also work with like small VC, like a VC
Oh, yeah.
firm, a honey, a honey business. That's another one. A doctor. So it kind of like runs all over the place. I've also worked with a
Yeah.
company in Denver as well, and they had these like drone devices for like construction. So it's everything. It's like everything under the sun. So I work with big
Yeah.
and small businesses. It just depends.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, being such a full spectrum sort of organization where you're able to do so much, but also you're embodying a lot of different sectors of work. And obviously, there might be some sort of different appeal to certain crowds or different appeal to specific what's the word that I'm looking for, like ideal customer prototype or
Hmm.
ideal customer profile rather.
Yeah.
So obviously those change from company to company. Is that something that
Mhm.
you're keeping up with, or is that something that the company's relaying to you? How much of your own research are you putting into it, or are you just taking everything that they're giving you at face value? How does it work?
So I think I understand your question. I do it kind of depends on the client. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
the time, like I'll help them sort of narrow down what their target customer might look like. Like I have clients that like don't even know what that even looks like, and then I have other clients
Yeah.
who have maybe even worked with another agency in the past, and so they have these materials, they have this understanding. Maybe it needs to be updated. But for the most part, it just kind of depends on the client and their needs. I've kind of done everything, and it's funny because like I used to get really hung up when I was really early on in this about the fact that I offered kind of so many different things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that I know now as being that I've done this for 5 years, which is crazy to think about. But that's not a hindrance, that it's as long as I'm confident in the fact that like I know what I'm doing, which I feel that way now. It's something that actually does make me stand out, where I used to be afraid that it would be something that would kind of make me lost in the crowd, because it's like
Yeah.
master of none, which it used to feel like
Yeah.
that I was like, and I don't feel like that anymore, which is really great.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And that has to be a lot of battling some sort of identity crisis, imposter syndrome. Imposter
Yes.
syndrome.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you face
Oh,
this imposter
absolutely.
syndrome when you're in 2020. You're like, I just left this company. I'm not 100% confident in what I'm doing. They obviously aren't confident in me either. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm leaving. Like, what were your thoughts then? You were like, well, I'll show them, or is it more of just, I'll show me?
Yeah. I think that that definitely hurt me a little bit. I was not feeling very confident in myself, probably because I was made to feel that way a little bit, like I said in that company
Mm-hmm.
before. But I think that their reaction to when I said I was going to leave made me feel a lot more confident.
Mm.
Because they were like really surprised that I was standing up for myself. And in general, like I'm somebody who's a little bit more soft spoken,
Mm-hmm.
and I did something that was, I was like, I stood up for myself, and I, while I walked through that scenario a million times before it happened, like nothing felt better than to tell them, like, hey, like that's really disappointing, because you snooze, you lose. Like I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And so I tried to gain a lot of confidence and remember that moment and remember how that
Mm-hmm.
felt, because I definitely was, like I said, like kind of made to feel a little bit like I couldn't leave and do things on my own.
Right.
So now, like when I notice that, someone from that company like looks at my LinkedIn or something, I always feel a little, sense of pride. Cause I'm like, wow, like look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
This is, you made me feel like, maybe you didn't think that I couldn't not do it. Maybe you thought that I could do it, but you made me feel like I couldn't. So now I'm showing
Right.
you,
That I can't.
for real, this is that I can. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just tried to gain a lot of confidence from that moment and remembered that, because it is really hard. I think being a woman makes it harder. It was a company that was run by men, and so, and it was like a bunch of young women that worked there, which also made it like just
Mm.
like a little bit harder to, I don't know, feel like you had some authority, I guess.
Right.
And so yeah, I just as like a young woman, it took me a long time to feel confident in what I was doing, and it's nice 5 years now in, I do feel that, and every once in a while it kind of creeps up. But you just got to remember that, like, oh, I've been doing this and I've been doing well, and that's
Yeah.
it
5 years
matters.
is
So
no joke.
yeah, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like maybe 2 years, maybe a year and a half, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're talking about this experience that you had in your corporate workplace and how you felt
Mhm.
like you weren't well respected and the work that you were doing wasn't being rewarded. I feel like that
Mhm.
is a feeling I've personally had, and also that many other women that work in male dominated industries or industries and companies run by men also feel. What exactly made you realize, like, I'm gonna not continue tolerating this anymore? This is my final straw. This, and this happened, and I'm done. I'm out.
I don't know what the final straw was. It was something that I was feeling for a while. One of my friends that worked there, she left.
Mm-hmm.
And it just something kind of shady happened within the business, and that was just kind of like, okay, I'm not this something is weird
Yeah.
here. I'm not growing. And that was a big part of it too, is like I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning all these things, but I don't know where this is going. Like
Right.
I'm not getting the recognition that I need, and I don't see any trajectory up, because also the business wasn't necessarily growing.
Right.
And so I was like, I just think that I've maybe, part of it's like I'm not happy here, but I'm also just, I think maybe I've just outgrown the situation. And so
Mm.
there wasn't really a singular moment necessarily. It was just kind of a collective number of things that made me just realize that my value would be more appreciated elsewhere. And like I said, I didn't even necessarily think about doing things on my own. That really just like kind of happened. Like I thought I was going to
Right.
go to another company and work for somebody else, and which is like neat that that kind of like I just never even thought about it.
Yeah.
I honestly like never really thought about working for myself, which is funny because my dad was an entrepreneur. He was a business owner, and which is weird that I would never think like that until I was actually in it. So
Yeah. And so obviously you said you got into the contracting work and then you just decided to create abcreative.com. Like, how was that
yeah.
progression? What did that look like? Because that seems like pretty much an overnight sensation in my mind.
I don't know. It was like I said, definitely like slow moving. I probably
Hmm.
made my logo like way early on because that was like something that could like fiddle around with and that was exciting. But then yeah, I made my website made by AB Creative like probably like I so things happened what that was like January, February
Hmm.
when COVID or no, March. COVID happened in March. I kind of like was doing things that summer and then I established my LLC in November of that same year. And I think somewhere towards the end of the summer was when it was like, okay, this is like a legitimate thing. I've got a handful of clients. I should make this official for tax purposes, but also for kind of
Yeah.
like my own, I don't know, because I didn't need to establish my LLC necessarily at that point. But it was something that I knew that would make me feel, once again, it was like another confidence boost, like to establish myself and be like, hey, I'm doing this. This is like
Hmm.
real. Let's get this like official.
Yeah. And building a website, was that something that you were familiar with, or was that something that you then had to outsource to somebody else?
I mean, I used Squarespace, which is about as
Okay.
easy as it gets. I still
Yeah.
use that just because it's easy. I've just never found, I think sometimes I like to do things on my own, even though I know how to
Hmm.
hire out for them.
Yeah.
Partially because I think that it helps me to know how to do those things.
Yeah.
So like I was like planning on moving on to Webflow, which is something a little bit less intuitive than Squarespace, but I like to do things like that on my own because I think it helps me better understand a process and kind of gives me another like edge that maybe I wouldn't have had because I am like consulting people on things to do their website and like helping them that
Right.
way. So I should probably be doing it on my own as well.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And obviously, there's a lot of different ways that you can learn about media and figure out how to create a business, but I feel like it can all seem so daunting at first.
Yeah.
And what would your recommendation be to someone who's looking to do something similar to what you're doing, of having this entire media outlet of, okay, I edit people's videos, I help them with their marketing work. Where do you even begin with that?
Yeah, I was really, once again, very lucky. I had found this Twitter chat that was called Freelance Chat. It's not
Okay.
around anymore, unfortunately, which is really too bad. The community is still kind of there on LinkedIn, but it's not quite the same, which is it's really disappointing. But I
Hmm.
learned so much. So I think that, and like it was like this weekly thing where you could ask any question under the sun about your
Hmm.
freelancing work. And it
And
was
it was
like
on
anything from
Twitter?
contracts. Yeah, it was on Twitter. It was great. It was
Wow.
this community, this woman named Michelle Garrett hosted it. She was great. She would post up a question and people would just ask. And there'd always be
Hmm.
like somebody in the industry that was like knowing of like this certain topic. And they would
Wow.
kind of jump into the conversation. And I learned so much, like so much. So I think that my number one bit of advice would be to like find a community
Hmm.
that could like help you because I think there's a lot of people that helped me when I was starting off, and I like to try to do that for someone as well. And I think you'll find a lot of those people as long as you're looking.
Hmm.
So joining a community, kind of finding like a little bit of a mentor, and it could be somebody virtual. I mean, you don't have to
Hmm.
meet these people in real life. That's the wonders of once again of COVID. Like also taught a lot more people how to do things virtually, whereas
Right.
before, like not everybody was savvy in that way. So finding a community, finding like a mentor and somebody that you can follow. And I would definitely like recommend probably like LinkedIn because I think that that's becoming a little bit more of that hub for finding communities like that.
Hmm.
But even Reddit, like you can find like groups in Reddit and do it there too. But that's my biggest advice is find some people that know what they're talking about, get some support there and ask the questions that you need to ask. And there's no stupid questions. And those people will like know exactly, I mean, they've been there. So they're
Right.
going to be like, this is not dumb. Like I also wanted to know this
Yeah.
as well when I was in your shoes. So
Yeah. And I feel like having that community is a amazing tool as well as outlet for you to be able to express things that you're frustrated with and that you're finding difficulties with or that you can't find the answers to. Was it something that was a two-way communication, or was this something that you were just strictly, okay, I'm gonna just read through this Twitter thread and see what information I can pull from it? Or were you conversing with other people and talking about, hey, maybe let's collaborate, or what do you think about this?
Yeah, it was like a conversation. So you could respond to a question and then other people could also respond to your answer and vice versa.
Okay.
So it was a very collaborative community of people. I honestly, the biggest problem that I had with it was like I wasn't a big Twitter person. I've never been a big Twitter person. So it
Mm-hmm.
felt like really overwhelming to me, but I still when I did join, like I just learned so much and like I remember I had a really bad situation where a client it ended up not being just me. He did this to a lot of people. He like walked out on like a major invoice of mine and it was not quite enough to do something about it legally, but it was
Mm-hmm.
enough to be like detriment, I mean, hurtful to me and my business, my
Yeah.
livelihood, right? Like, and I was so torn up about it. And I went to this community, I talked about it. People gave me advice. You know, they told me they've learned the same lesson for a lot more, like losing a lot more money than I did. And that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just make sure that you add this situation to your contract so someone can't take advantage of you again. And it was just nice. Like I was so heartbroken and so distraught. And I had these people that I could like that could totally relate and just give me like the advice and also just like being a sounding board when I was having a hard time.
Yeah. And obviously, building a business comes with a lot of obstacles. But tell me
Yeah.
more about that experience where this person just absolutely did not pay for the services that you provided. Like, how was that legal? How are you able to get away with doing that?
I wasn't the only one that this person did it. So this person hired me. They were a Denver business. I'm not gonna call them out, but they they hired me and then told their colleagues, their fellow founders, that they didn't hire someone, and they were taking my work and telling them that they did it.
Wow.
So, and I had no idea. I mean, I had no idea. So this guy was doing that, and so like he paid me at first. Like at first, he was paying every single invoice. Like the second that I sent it, and then he like didn't pay one, and then didn't pay another one. And I was like, oh, well, you know, he always paid me on time, and I kind of tried not to worry about it. And
Mm-hmm.
it came like a couple invoices in, and I was like, okay, something's wrong here. And he was trying to
Yeah.
say that I didn't do the work that he wanted me to do when I totally did, and all this stuff, and that he was gonna take legal action if I tried to take legal action, and so I dropped it.
Wow.
Um, about a year later, his fellow co-founder reached out, said, you know, this guy did this to numerous people. I'm so sorry. We had no idea that he hired you.
Wow.
And they told me that they wanted to pay me what was owed, except they never did, which is really
Mm.
too bad.
Yeah.
So, and it was kind of a high profile. Um, the people that are part of the business are like high profile people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was even more disappointing. But I'm still not going
Yeah.
to put them on blast because I don't know. I at least appreciated that I got to get some sort of resolution where it was like it wasn't me that, you know, that
Yeah.
this was like a fault of. So
Yeah, but how do you mediate that going forward?
I changed all of my invoice or my contracts to include that you could only have one like unpaid invoice at a time, or else like um, all work was going to halt. So like if I was going to go through and have like another invoice to be um, unpaid, they'd have to pay me right away, or else I was going to not do any work. Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
No, you're fine.
And so, yeah, so that's how I fixed it. And I haven't had that problem since. So,
Wow. That's wild. I just can't believe that people have the audacity to do things like that. Did you ever
yeah.
follow back up with the company after they said that they wanted to pay you and be like, hey guys, remember when you said you wanted to pay me?
Yeah, I did
Oh my gosh,
a
and they
couple
still
times.
didn't?
No, and they were like, I know that they were in like a major legal situation with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the business did not launch like they thought it was going to launch. But it just eventually became too much. I was then pregnant and I was just like, this is the last thing that I want to deal with.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never going to see this money anymore. I don't need to stress about this. And so I
Yeah.
just dropped it. And you know what? Like those people said in that freelance group, it's like I could have learned this lesson in a lot worse of a way. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but it's still something that's disappointing and discouraging. Like, did I do something wrong? Is it me? Is it something that I did? There's a lot of
yeah.
self-blame that I could imagine would happen in a scenario like that. So,
Yeah.
obviously, that's one obstacle that you've had to overcome in the 5 years that you have been doing this. Is there anything else
Mhm.
that you can remember that was like, wow, this really like bogged me down, or this was really something that I had to overcome? Was there anything along those lines?
I mean, that was by far the worst.
Yeah. I mean, it
But
doesn't
I,
get much worse than not getting paid for doing your work.
yeah, well, and because I just, like you said, like I questioned myself. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, did I not provide the services that I promised? And I was like, I was like, no, of course. I was like, I did. I did everything that we agreed on. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is not me. So it was great to like a year later to be vindicated in that way. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've been lucky that that's been the worst thing that's happened to me.
Yeah.
I've lost clients and that's, tough. And um, nothing has been like too bad, but it is difficult in general, when you kind of feel that like, and a majority of my lost clients have been financial on their end,
Mm-hmm.
which is just too bad, but it still hurts when you know that they just
Right.
like can't afford it anymore for whatever reason, that it's just like not working out. But it still kind of hurts a little bit for whatever reason, or even when a project ends, like you still have to remind yourself that like you did this really, really wonderful work with them and they gave you like this
Yeah.
really great review, that it's not you, that it's like the project is ending or they're just like their business isn't doing as well as, like you
Right.
were able to help them sustain, but their business, ultimately the business just can't do what it needs to do to be, you know, paying you the
Yeah.
services. Which, like I said, luckily hasn't been too many of the situations, but of the clients I've lost, it has. But yeah, other than that, it's just a matter. I think like the other hardest thing is um, just the confidence thing. I think that like
Mm-hmm.
in general, I'm someone who, like I said, I'm a soft-spoken person. I have to remind myself like I know what I'm talking about, and I do know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about, and and I think that that's a lot easier now than it used to be. But like there were days, man, I would do it like some sort of pitch, and I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
get it for some reason, and I a lot of the time probably didn't get it because I wasn't confident enough. And so I try to
Yeah.
remind myself, like, once again, you know what you're talking about. And that hasn't been an issue in a long time, but those were really hard days to
Yeah.
just learn how to just feel that, and to believe that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I feel like while marketing and media is so subjective, it is really like if your client likes it and you hate it, like that's what you have to produce. And
Yeah.
if it's something that you don't necessarily like, that's not really an idea that you would have come up with on your own, but that's what the client wants. How do you come to terms with, okay, this is my work, but I don't really identify with what is being created, if that makes sense.
Hmm. And honestly, especially early on, that's a lot of what I was doing, which is totally
Mm-hmm.
fine. And you have to do what you have to do to make money, right? Luckily I feel like I don't have to necessarily do that so much anymore. But I don't know. I mean, it's something where you just kind of accept it and you find different things
Mm-hmm.
to be proud of that you can connect to within the
Yeah.
work. I think in general, I just put myself in the position of like the client, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what it needs to be. And you kind of have to like you have to kind of like leave your own vision at the door, sort of, when you're
Right.
working with certain businesses, to make sure that you're aligning with their brand and their vision and their goals and things like that. So I think it's kind of just like something that you practice and you get used to.
Yeah. And in
Yeah.
terms of like trying to understand what your medium looks like through the voice of a client, would you say that the analogy to use would be they are the visionary and you are the painter, and they're telling you the idea of what they want. And then on this blank canvas, you're like, okay, here is what I'm able to come up with for you.
I would say it's more like they are they're the person that is providing the material, and
Okay.
then I'm kind of painting the picture for them.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like working a lot with like whatever they have, and then maybe I'm like telling them, oh, I need this color or like this like paintbrush, you know what I
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Because like I said, well, while that differs between clients for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
um, they often do. It's like they come with what they have, and then I'm like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You have your goals, you have the material, and we're gonna make this work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, the majority of what that normally looks like.
Yeah, which is really interesting to me because I always get fascinated by how other people perceive their work or how they feel like their work relates to something that I think is more common, like
Mhm.
the idea of a painter and someone that's coming up with an idea. But yeah, it's really just something that I find very fascinating. But going back to what you previously said about pitching your ideas and pitching what your services are, how did you come up with the ability to pitch? Like, obviously, you know marketing and you know generally how to make a good pitch deck, but the content to include inside of the pitch deck, like what you're saying, if the materials are provided, you're making it look pretty, you know? So then you have to do the hard work also of making it look pretty, but also what am I putting in this presentation? What is important? What do they
Yeah.
want to see? How'd you learn how to do
I think
that?
the best way to do it, I can't remember who gave me this advice, but it was like a long time ago. Someone said to treat myself like a client.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to view it from that lens where it's like I'm not doing it for me. I am my client. I even track my time just to understand like where I'm putting my effort. And that's just like how I view it. So it's like
Yeah.
if I was going to help a client sell their product, which I have helped clients do that, how would I go about doing that? What does that look like? And that's
Mm-hmm.
basically how I taught myself how to do it. It's someone told me that one time, and that totally changed the game for me. Which
Yeah.
seems so simple, but it was such like a yeah, such a game changer in my kind of like my mindset of how to do that.
Yeah, I feel like not every piece of advice that you get needs to be super complex and hard to really break down and understand. So it's good to have
Hmm.
bits that resonate that aren't necessarily as dense as other things.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've had like lots of things like that. I think I can't think of any specific ones besides that one at the moment, but um, yeah, there's such like little things that can change your whole perspective on how to handle something, and that one was huge for me, especially when I'm not a salesperson. Like, yes, I do marketing, but that's very different than truly selling something.
Right.
So that's not a unique ability of mine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that's necessary for my business to grow and to sustain itself. And so that was like huge to help me frame it in a way that I know, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like I know how to market for other companies. I'm not a salesperson, but it's similar.
Right.
And so it helped me just be able to put myself in the perspective of the way that I needed to think about it to do it in the proper way.
Yeah. And then as you're turning this new corner of learning how to be a business owner as well as a mother, what has that been like? Because obviously, being a mother takes on a whole new level of responsibilities and tasks, and what your day looks like, and how your day is framed, and how much energy you have. Like, how has that really impacted your day to day?
Yeah, I mean, it's impacted many things, as I'm sure like anybody who has like become a mom like can understand. I think the biggest one is and I mean this like sincerely, it's made me a better a better worker in general because I have to be super efficient,
Mm-hmm.
which is great for my clients because I charge by the hour. So my
Yeah.
efficiency is like through the roof because she goes to daycare a couple days a week, but on the days that she doesn't go to daycare, I'm like, okay, like it's nap time, like I need to do this project because it requires like uninterrupted, hour of time or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. And so it's allowed me to be a lot better at doing those things and kind of like setting up my time and stuff like that. So it's definitely made me better. It's also like I think made me more, not that I'm not someone who's like empathetic before, but I
Mm-hmm.
think in that way it's helped me with my empathy
Yeah.
to understand like my business and understand like the brand, which is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what I need to do.
Right.
So it's made me a little bit more sensitive. I think I'm becoming more vulnerable to my own clients because a lot of my clients have like taught me to be that way. I have one client who's always like he would like know when something was going on in my life. Like it was like weird. Like he could always like sense it. And he's like, you just got to tell me like if something's going on, like that's fine. And I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
he knew because I'm really good at compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
He's just very in tune. I think it's probably like his unique ability. He'd probably tell you
Yeah.
that too. But he could kind of like tell for some reason, which is so odd. And he's like, you just got to be honest about it. Like if something's going on. And so it's made me understand that like being vulnerable is not necessarily a negative thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're working with like the right people, which I try to work with people that I
Right.
have like a vibe with and we have a good relationship because I think that that matters. And by me being vulnerable, it allows them to be vulnerable and actually allows me to do better with what it allows me to do my
Yeah.
job better. They're able to
Yeah.
like give me more of themselves, and especially for those companies that are like solo business owners, those
Mm-hmm.
people that I really need them to be able to tell the story. It
Yeah.
allows them to be more vulnerable too. So that's definitely the ways it's helped me. And in general, on the days when it's really hard and I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back to a 9 to 5. It reminds me that like my daughter is like eventually going to be watching, and I want her to be like, oh, my mom runs her own business. Like I want that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not my future. Maybe eventually I do work for someone else, but right now it's still working for me, and that's what I would love to hear out of my daughter's mouth when she can eventually talk. So, yeah, I don't know. It just makes me proud, and especially as like a female business owner, I want her to see that and kind of like have that instill confidence in her as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely an amazing thing to be in the house and showing her what type of person you are in terms of how you commit yourself to business and how you commit yourself to this career that you've created for yourself, which is really difficult. And throughout this conversation, you've made it seem like this has been just an easy life progression of, yeah, it was just like the natural choice. This is what made sense. And then I made the website and then I just found clients. And it really is very poetic in the sense of just the things that are for you will find you, and being
Hmm.
able to continue to capitalize on that and be able to continue to see your growth in that is hugely important. And so my next question is, how do you see growth within the next 5, 10 years? Would you consider hiring a team? Is this something that you want to continue to run just solo on your own, or what do you see?
Yeah, that's something I ask myself a lot, and I still am not sure
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like. I think that there's going to be a point, like I said, um, I do hire for my clients. So like technically, I
Mm-hmm.
guess I like have a little bit of a team in some way. It's just not as like traditional.
Right.
And more often than not, I actually have my clients pay them as opposed to me. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like I do have to pay them. They're not like actually employees of mine.
Yeah.
But so I have grown in that way, and whereas I didn't necessarily have more than like one person under me,
Mm-hmm.
before or earlier on, whereas now it's like about five. So I think that maybe that will just continue to grow just naturally. I probably should think a little bit more strategically about what that looks like in the future, but right now it's just, especially with my daughter being so young, I'm just trying to kind of stay afloat.
Yeah.
Because while it sounds like all of this sounds really easy, it hasn't really been
Right.
super easy. It's today just might be a really good day and but I always tell people when they're like, wow, like what you're doing sounds so fun and you get to have your own schedule, and I'm like, the grass is always greener. Like
Right.
this works for me. I don't want to change it, but there are some days where, life hits you and you're like, wow, it would be so much better to like know to have like a solid paycheck at the end of the week and know what
Right.
that's going to look like and have my own benefits where I'm not taking my husband's, and you know what I mean? Like it would be like the security of working for somebody else might look better on certain days. So
I feel like it translates into my next question of obviously there's a lot of obstacles and there's a lot of hardships with creating a business. Like you just said, there's times where you're like, maybe it would be easier for me to go and get a 9 to 5. Maybe it would be easier to go and work for a company that provides childcare or something along those lines. But
mhm.
obviously there's something that is rewarding to you. There is something that you're like, I want to keep doing this. And I know that you mentioned that you want your daughter to say, my mom is a business owner and she has her own company, but there has to also be something that you have it in for you of
Yeah.
this really lights me up. This is my passion. This is my purpose in this world. Like, what is that to you?
I mean, I think that in general, it comes back to feeling like kind of, I think that like in general, I'm somebody who I have anxiety. I've always dealt with that. And so that makes a lot of what I do really difficult, or like it used to, especially
Mm-hmm.
earlier on. And so I think that in general, this makes me feel it's easy to find pride in what I'm doing because I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it like by myself. And running my own business, it has my name on it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that in general, it's something that helps me gain a little bit more confidence to maybe control that anxiety and that little bit of self-doubt that I deal with, because I can use that as like a foundation to be like, hey, look what you did, you know. And while you
Right.
could always find that working for another person, another company, I think it's a little bit easier and a little more tangible, to be doing it on your own. So I think that that's something that helps me with that.
Yeah. And I feel like there's probably so many other things that also are like, this makes it worth it and this makes it worth it. And it's hard to probably boil it down to just one point, but I appreciate you doing that. Do you have any advice for people that want to start their own business or for contracting work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like I said, find a community. I think that that's really important,
Mm-hmm.
because it's something that you just need. You need the support there, and getting the support from people who have been in your position, I think, is really, really, really important. And then just like you just kind of have to do it. Uh, I think doing it while you have something else going on is probably a good way to start it.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you can have something to fall back on. But then at some point you have to let go because that's the biggest
Yeah.
part about it. So like I know, like you said, like, oh, it just kind of happened all easily and kind of organically, but it didn't. There was a point, and while I for some reason can't remember it very vividly, but there was a point in which I let go of the idea of working for somebody else and took a
Mm-hmm.
chance, right? There was a point in which I did that, but I think that I only was able to do that because I felt some sort of support and I had some knowledge behind me to kind
Mm.
of get that off the ground. And so I think that that's why it's so important to have some sort of like community. And I think that that's probably the biggest advice that I can give,
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah. And
So,
I mean,
and
you,
like believing in what you're doing. Cause like I, I don't know. It's so hard. It's so easy to have, like you said, or what we were talking about before, to have like an imposter syndrome. And I still have it to this day. But just like reminding yourself, like, oh, this is what I've done, even at the very
mm-hmm.
beginning, because you're going to find that you build up things to be proud of pretty easily. Because the like little wins are a lot bigger when it's just you.
Right.
And so I think just like making sure that you're remembering, maybe if you're writing those things down, just remembering like the things that you're accomplishing, so you have something to stand on, for your own sake.
Yeah. And I mean, looking back on 2019, you that was working at this company, and you were probably pretty proud of the work that you were doing, and you're like, I'm gonna work hard and show my superiors that I deserve a promotion and that I deserve the next steps. Would you have ever imagined yourself of being a business owner for 5 years and counting of this is what I do now?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have. And it's something that's like I've talked about a lot, even in like posts when I've done stuff on like LinkedIn about, my dad was an entrepreneur, and it's something he
Mm-hmm.
passed away about like 9 years ago, and it's something that's really too bad that I never thought about working for myself, which is so weird being, a daughter of someone who did that. Because I wish I could have this conversation I wish I could talk to him about it and like be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'd love to like ask these certain questions or just have had these conversations because I just never thought about it in that way, for whatever reason. So yeah, I mean, that 2019 me definitely couldn't have pictured it. 15 me could, when I first started working out of school, couldn't think of that. I would be surprised at where I am now, but definitely proud of it. So
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that he'd be so proud of everything that you've accomplished. And I know that your daughter is probably super proud, although she can't tell you yet, of how
yeah,
much
she's only
that
one and a
you're
half, so
accomplishing.
she's got very few words. So
Yeah, a woman with succinct words. Yeah, enjoy it while it
yes,
lasts.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's so amazing to see everything that you've been able to accomplish, and it's been amazing to hear your story. And I'd love for you to share with people where they can find you, or what services you're able to provide them, or like what your ideal client looks like.
Yeah, I mean, as far as ideal client is, I just like to work with somebody. I like to work with people that are like-minded, I guess, which isn't always the
Mm-hmm.
case. That doesn't always happen like that. But I just like people that have a good vibe to them because I think that it's really important to have kind of like a good relationship to have the work do well. I can
Mm-hmm.
do without it, and I have, but it's nice to have that good relationship with my clients and to kind of see them as friends, which is something that's really neat. That's come out a lot of those relationships. And then as far as like the work that I do kind of everything under the sun is in terms of like marketing. I do video editing. I do creative consulting. A lot of what I do revolves around social media. So I help people with their content strategy, content creation, and things like that as well. You can find me at madebyabcreative.com, which is also my handle for Instagram and TikTok. And then I also do Ash, the Working Mama, which is where I post a lot about what it's like to be a freelancer and a mom. So, working from home, which is something that like lots of people that don't work for themselves also experience, working from
Mm-hmm.
home with their kids. So I talk a lot about that experience there.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything
Yeah.
else that you want to share with the audience and get out into the universe?
No, I just think like if you're thinking about, going and working for yourself and starting a freelance business, I think that you should do it. It's really rewarding. It's really hard. But just go out there and do it. Find a community. That's really important. And just start posting stuff. Like just start going out and make a website, show the kind of material, like the kind of stuff that you can create, show people what you can do, and just do it because um, there's no better time than now. That's the biggest thing
Yeah.
is you can wait and the timing could be right, but it's never going to be right. So you have to just go and do it.
Yeah, I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. And I really
Yeah. Thank you.
appreciated hearing your story. And I'm hoping that it inspires somebody else who feels like they're stuck in their corporate job, that there is something for them to do, whether it's freelance or contract work, and they can do it while being a mom, because obviously
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah, I was doing it when I wasn't a mom, and I am somehow still managing it with with a 1.5 year old. So it's definitely doable, and you don't have to be miserable in what you're doing. So if you're miserable at your job, don't live your life like that because it's just not worth it. So if you can
Hmm.
make it better, you should.
Amen
Yeah,
to that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Well, again, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of
It's nice to
course.
meet you.
Have a good one, Ashley.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Consider the Source podcast. If you're not already, please make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure to check us out on YouTube because the videos do get posted there every Wednesday. And then if you haven't already, make sure you leave a comment, make sure you leave a 5-star review. Make sure that you're following me on social media at Sarah Smiles Network everywhere. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and make sure to tune in next week for another episode of the Consider the Source podcast. Bye.